And we are live. Welcome back to the Not Important Gaming Podcast. This is a especially sniffly episode as I am sick. But this is with Jeremy and Derek. I am Jeremy.
I am Derek.
And we got an interesting episode here for you today. We're going to be talking about the MU Paradise having a bunch of their ROMs taken down after Nintendo started cracking down on them, and EA being assholes.
Yep.
But before we get started,
Of course.
Yeah, exactly. I'm thinking about just renaming the podcast to the Shitting on EA podcast.
Right.
So, before we get started, how's your week been going, Derek?
Just mainly keeping busy with work and whatnot. Had the chance to relax this weekend because, as you know, on the podcast, I guess, might not be aware, but, Jeremy and I go to school together. So essentially, we just took our final over the weekend. So as far as school is gone, really not much, this weekend, but work and whatnot. Outside of that, I've been able to just kind of chill out. And let's see, yesterday I was kind of busy. I was definitely moving some stuff around. Had to go out to this storage unit that we rent to pull out fall decorations and stuff like that, since it's that time of year. So so Saturday I guess I was kind of Saturday I might have been kind of busy, but today's been pretty relaxed for me, so that's nice.
Not a bad deal. I, on the other hand, have had one of the most stressful weekends of my life. I had popped a flat out on the opposite side of town. got to deal with that all day the following day, and then today at work we had an insane amount of customers come in. So it's been a real busy weekend for me. Not a whole lot of fun, unfortunately.
Right? No, that sounds awesome.
Right. Oh man. You been playing any games though?
This weekend, no, actually. Well, no, I take that back. I played a little bit of Metroid Prime. I don't know, I was just feeling it, so I got kind of back. Or maybe it was just all this talk about Nintendo and the ROM strikes. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna rebel a bit and play a Nintendo ROM. And so I just kind of turned on Metroid Prime, and I was like, yeah.
Man, Metroid Prime is such a great game. I bought. I know I've been talking about it for a while. I finally pulled the trigger and bought Monster Hunter World on PC, and I found out immediately that it just doesn't like to run on my PC at all. But it's the first week or two, so I'm sure they're still working on patches. It's pretty standard for a port to come over and not work out too well.
I'm definitely used to launches being awful.
Yeah.
With a number of MMO expansions, it's just that's exactly what you deal with naturally. So it gets you kind of prepared for that when it comes to just standard releases for games,
right?
That are non-MMO, right? Hot fixes and the dealing with patch updates and all the bugginess that comes with it. So yeah.
Yep, I'm sure out in Capcom is it Capcom? I'm sure they're working hard to get everything fixed up. But it's definitely not sat well with the community, though. You could see all over Reddit, all over the forums, a bunch of people are really pissed about it.
Yeah, no, I can understand that. I think for a lot of people who are kind of uninitiated to hot fixes and different patches, certain games, it's because maybe they're just not used to that in general with the games that they typically play. The first time you experience that fully with a game play, it's it is kind of disheartening. It can definitely be frustrating. I guess it's just one of those things that it does get easier over time when you realize that the launch for most games that are done on a pretty big scale aren't gonna go as smooth as you would like, just because it's human error mixed with coding issues, and it's just this is what alpha testing and beta testing are is for to begin with, is to try to catch a lot of this stuff before get released, but then it ends up just kind of there ends up being, you know, a release where, you know, now when all the servers or everything's brought up, it's like, you know, there are new issues that they didn't even see before, and just
right.
So yeah, I guess, you know, it's kind of to be expected, at least to some extent, but how they handle it in the weeks coming are that's obviously like probably the biggest factor for this. You know, is it a quick response? Is it a slow one?
Most definitely. Well, I think we'll get into it here. Like I said, I apologize for my voice. For anyone listening, like I said, I think I'm coming down with some kind of cold or something. I have chocked myself full of probably a deadly amount of allergy medications and cold medications. So that's right, ladies and gentlemen. Only we will risk our lives to bring you completely irrelevant shit.
Yeah. Sounds like a fun day night.
Right, exactly.
Fun Sunday night? Did I say fun day night? It's a fun Sunday night.
So do you want to get started with the MU Paradise thing that's been going on?
Sure. Yeah, so apparently, Nintendo a couple weeks ago, they filed a complaint at a federal court in Arizona, and they specifically aimed it at LoveRoms.com and LoveRetro.com for copyright and trademark infringement, right?
Right.
Those two sites were both shut down because of the potential like millions at stake from the impending lawsuit. They didn't want to deal with this, so they shut down. So it really starts with those two sites, I guess, that Nintendo initially. And then soon after, I want to say last week, MU Paradise, a major ROM hosting site that's been active for almost like 18 years, announced that it would too be emptying itself of its full ROM library. And just a couple days ago, another site called the ISO Zone is also throwing in the towel. So I think there's this huge movement right now that Nintendo is making, and I guess I see both sides of it. I really do. Where they are trying to heavily crack down on you know, the downloading of ROMs and the sharing it across, you know, all these multiple sites that are hosting them, because, you know, this is their own, you know, copyright, this is their trademark, you know, their content, and they want to be able to make revenue from it. But these are games that, you know, also are you know, a lot of them being you know, 25 to 30 years old at this point. You know, I think it's fair to say that, you know, there's not many people that are going to be, you know, picking up old virtual console games anymore. And I think the idea of ROMs have been, and people playing them and downloading them is so widespread now that it's almost kind of like what I would equate to the situation with like LimeWire and FrostWire, etc., where all that did was, you know, when the court order came against, you know, those major sites that were, you know, sharing you know, different torrents of like, you know, songs and whatnot, and people were filling, you know, their MP3 libraries with that back in like 2006, 2007. The only thing it did was just, you know, get people to you know, try to look elsewhere for the same content without having to pay, you know, 99 cents per song, you know, on the iTunes store for it. And I think that's all we're going to see now. People are just going to try to find a different way or alternative methods or other sites that are hosting these ROMs to go to instead. So I see it as this big gray area, but basically, yeah, they're on a full frontal rampage. They're definitely trying to crack down on this.
Oh yeah, and I mean, Nintendo's always been very, very protective of their IP. Maybe not like Disney levels of protective, but they've never been like a big fan of other companies trying to introduce Nintendo characters. I mean, they fought that kind of thing tooth and nail for years.
Right.
So it makes sense that they would try to crack down on ROMs, which in a certain manner of speaking is pirating.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's one of those things where at this point I don't think they're going to be making any money off of any you know, N64 sales. They're not going to be making any money off of a Virtual Boy. I don't know why I just brought up Virtual Boy. Nobody played that.
Right.
but nobody, they're, I don't see them making any money, which is why I guess the only reason I can see them going after this is specifically because of copyright issues. Like, basically, it's the idea of, like, if you're making a fan game, it's a really bad idea to announce that you're making that fan game until the game is already released. Simply because the way copyright works, if a company does not defend their copyright, whether or not they care about the particular project, they lose the copyright if they don't defend it. So I'm wondering if that's what's going on, and that's why they've sent out all of these cease and desist letters all of a sudden. But on MU Paradise in particular, I think it makes definite sense that, having seen what's going on, it makes perfect sense that they would want to try and get rid of as many ROMs as they can before it comes back on them.
Oh yeah, no, they've emptied their site more or less. They just completely gutted it.
Yeah.
Non-Nintendo ROMs as well. Yeah, it's.
Oh, I didn't realize they did non-Nintendo ROMs.
Yeah, no, everybody is dumping like their whole ROM library. I mean, it's like 4 sites already. A couple of them very big sites. So I mean, you know, if this is just kind of like a scare tactic or just kind of like a legal tactic to get them to say, okay, well, we did voice our concern against the copyright issue, so you can't say that, you know, when all is said and done, that we didn't try. You know, if it's just kind of to, you know, at least put their foot forward about it, and man, they accomplished a lot more than that because they actually scared these sites off.
Oh yeah.
You know, fully, like, yeah. I mean, it's a done deal. Like, a lot of these sites have completely caved in and thrown in the towel. So it's like,
I mean, even, you know,
just in the threat of losing millions of dollars, you know, they did that. You know, it didn't actually come. It didn't even come to a real lawsuit. It's just threats, and that's gotten them to do. You know, nobody wants to go up against a big giant from Japan.
I remember back in the day, and I don't know how long ago. I know this was a while, but I don't remember exactly how long ago. Nintendo was cracking down on people making Let's Plays as well of their games.
Yes, that is true.
I remember that. Yeah, it was a big deal because they were trying to, you know, basically say, no, you cannot make a Let's Play of a Nintendo game. I don't think there was ever a resolution for that, but I've definitely seen people playing Nintendo games. It's still a big deal. I mean, one of my favorite speedrunners does Wind Waker. So it's definitely a thing that people still do, and to my knowledge, I don't think Nintendo can do anything about it. But definitely in like a situation with a ROM where they're I guess not selling, but they are distributing copies of Nintendo games, I can definitely see where they've got ground to stand on there.
Right. Yeah, no, I can't see them following through with something like that. That's, you know, relatively innocent. But when it comes down to it, it's like, you know, I guess I can't understand that, you know, a company like them who kind of has a little more of an aggressive approach to retaining, you know, their copyright, or to, you know, not allow their content to be shared without their approval, you know, like Disney does as well. I mean, what Disney was, oh Jesus Christ, didn't they try to sue somebody for singing the Happy Birthday song at this kid's birthday party or whatever? That was like advertised.
This is news to me.
Yeah, no, well, because, you know, the Happy Birthday song, like the one that we sing is actually copyright. Like,
no.
that didn't, you know, I mean, that was, yeah, no, that's I believe it's Warner Brothers copyright.
Holy crap, I had no idea.
Yeah, right here, and I'm looking up. Yeah, Warner Music pays $14 million to end Happy Birthday copyright. Settlement reached in copyright lawsuit. Yeah, so like there was this huge back and forth. I believe it was Disney that started it. I believe they were the ones that held the copyright to it. But or it may have been Warner Brothers initially, but yeah, basically, no, that's not public domain, and people were trying to sue for that, you know, and that's just, I remember that was kind of like the first real look that I had at like how copyright, is kind of, it's this thing that some companies are willing to just kind of die for, no matter in what context it is in. It's just going to be like, they'll, if they have their name on something, they don't want to share it.
Right.
And something that's as widespread as Happy Birthday song. I mean, that's like, you would think even if you did own that you would be okay with just people saying that at a birthday party. But, when all of a sudden cease and desist letters come in, it's just like, you're kind of, it's, I don't know. I almost feel like you're setting up a precedent that you really don't want to continue. You know what I mean? Because that kind of gives a really bad image to copyright protections in general. I think to try to chase after something like that, so aggressively, when it's really not an issue. But so I think part of the real issue is just kind of like picking your battles, and some of the more aggressive companies, don't want to do that for sure. But I guess in Nintendo's case, I can understand it to some extent.
Yeah, and especially with it being, ROMs in particular are kind of a legal gray area, I think. Like I said, there's definitely an argument for them being a form of piracy, because you are receiving a game, and even if they are like old games that aren't in production anymore, and that I don't think there's a single new copy of something like Majora's Mask or, like you said, Metroid Prime. So it's not like Nintendo's making any money off of these anymore. But at the same time, I can at least see the merit of it being a form of piracy.
Mm-hmm.
Just on the grounds that it's distributing a free product, a product that people worked hard on. It doesn't matter how long ago that was. People worked hard on it, and just to have it distributed isn't entirely fair. That being said,
absolutely.
Full disclosure, I have absolutely pirated games before, and I will probably do it in the future. Please don't take me as some sort of moral arbiter.
What?
Yes,
Damn it, but you're like
yes,
the
yes.
paragon of righteousness. Yep.
Hey there, very muffled Reed. How are you?
We got
Pretty good. Oh yeah, let me make sure.
As you can see tonight, we have the pinnacle of audio quality. We can get that fixed here shortly.
It's my favorite
Hello?
robot.
Yeah, this should sound
That
way
is
better.
so much
There.
better. Oh my god,
You
that's
are
like
not
night
a
and
robot
day.
anymore. Yeah, you probably have better audio quality in that 2 seconds that you shifted that to night.
Yeah, it was using the internal microphone for the laptop.
I actually need to turn you down now.
Yeah, no, I feel that. I guess the bigger picture being that, like, obviously, is it ethically okay to deal with ROMs and to have them, to download them, to host them? Probably not. But when it comes down to it, I feel that if these studios, if these developers of these ROMs are not finding, if they're not creating an outlet for players to be able to play them on in recent years for platforms that are currently on the market, then they're just going to be kind of lost in time, because there's no way that I'm honestly going to get a Sega Saturn and hook it up to my TV, or even try to.
Right.
I'm not going to go fish around for one on eBay just so that I can find a cartridge that probably rarely exists anymore of some game that I have right now, but that would take forever for me to actually try to find just to play it again. If I can just download it in no time at all, piracy or not. It's just like, it's the convenience or the lack of that I think drives a lot of people to want to play it. Now, Nintendo, on that note, Nintendo has created a virtual store, and for the Wii U and for the Switch now, they have it going, and it just which is fine. They're trying to keep up with a lot of those old releases, and I think in their case they probably have a better argument than a number of other developers to try to protect their copyright property, because they're actually trying to resell it on modern systems. But for the developers that don't, and they're just on these really old, outdated consoles, and they've given no modern way for people to play these games on their current systems. You kind of have to expect it. I think that's a fair assessment of that.
Just because I wasn't here for the whole thing, and I just wanted to double check. Did you guys already discuss like the sort of like moral gray ground of like ROMs and how like
That's
how they like their actual legal claim is that like it's offering a service that basically, if you've already purchased it, you are able to basically like have access to it, basically, and that's sort of like the legal ground that they sort of stand on.
No, that's interesting. That's actually I haven't heard that. We were kind of getting into about how the ROMs sit in kind of a moral gray area, but that's certainly an interesting take, one that I haven't heard.
Yeah, that's generally the sort of reasoning and whatnot that most ROM places use, basically, like legally say like, oh, you're only supposed to download this if you have access to a legal copy.
I got you.
Oh yeah. Well, that's why ROMs are illegal, but emulators are not. Because emulators are only a place to. All it is, an emulator is just a platform that you use to play the games that you already own. Like I could download a PS2 emulator and then play an actual PS2 game if I have the disc for it. Or if I have like a copy for it, I just need a way to basically like play the actual video file. Like that's essentially what they're advertised as. It's kind of like how, although I think the false notion, or where it kind of gets lost in the translation, is like the same thing with like a tobacco pipe. Like if you go into a head shop, and buy what we know as a bong. You go in and call it a tobacco pipe. I want to look at that one. You buy it and you walk out the door with what everybody knows you're going to smoke weed out of, most likely. But, it's for tobacco, quote unquote. Yeah. So it's like, that's what the emulator thing is. They know what you're going to use it for, but it's legal because it has the means to play legal games.
I mean, and it kind of goes back to what you're saying as far as like it being a supply problem. I mean, there's obviously the famous like Gabe Newell quote where it says piracy is a service problem, and I think this kind of like falls under the same umbrella. I mean, obviously it's like if Nintendo is offering one of their old games and they're offering it for a very reasonable or affordable price, there's no reason to pirate, in my opinion.
I agree.
You're not supporting the people who made it.
Right.
And it encourages Nintendo to go out and get the other games and make them reasonable. But it completely changes if A, they don't have the legal rights to redistribute it, B, the company that does have legal rights just doesn't exist anymore, or C, if, it's like the cost is prohibitive, and then it's like, it's frustrating because it's sort of like messing up, capitalism or economics, and how it's supposed to work, which is that like, you have the thing, I want the thing, I give you money, and let's just figure out the middle ground, and like all that other stuff just kind of gets in the way. And sad to say, but like the ROM thing fixes that problem, but it also sort of enables the sort of illicit activity for the people that don't want to pay.
Yeah, well, and it's funny too because any of the ROMs that I own, actually I think every single one were all games that I bought at one point in time that I can't play anymore. So it's like, that's more or less my reasoning as to why I have them, or at least the reason why I don't have to feel guilty about it, is because, I previously, I have given money to these developers for those specific games. I just can't play them anymore because aren't necessarily my fault. It's just like, it would be for the same reason that like, it would be kind of bullshit on the other hand, if like, you do something that's, kind of like along the lines of like what Sony is wanting to do by taking away backwards compatibility for their systems over time. So like the PS4 doesn't have backwards compatibility for the PS3. They're more or less saying, hey, like the hundreds of dollars that you dumped into your PS Store library for the PS3 for all the classic games, yeah, you don't have access to them. And we're going to create a platform where you're going to have to repurchase that stuff. It's like, there's kind of two ends to this relationship between consumer and producer that we should, take note of. Like, there's the illegality of it from the consumer standpoint of like, actually downloading the ROMs and the ROM hosting sites and, where they're in the fault, because they're not being fair in that relationship with the producer at that point, with the developer in this instance. But then, also in, on the other end of that, you have situations that are currently going on in gaming right now, like the one that I just mentioned, where it's like, have me pay for a game twice just because you want to be the precedent that you set for your console. So it's like,
in certain cases you kind of do get a little bit though, because sometimes they're remastered, or sometimes they add new features, or even just having access to something digitally on like a newer platform might be convenient for you. In that case, it's kind of worth it, but not always.
Yeah, if it's a remastering, I can understand. But not everything is going to be considered a remaster, but definitely shut out the entire library.
Maybe I'm the odd man out here then, because I'm not a big fan of remastering.
Some of them are good.
Some of them are good, but the majority of them are just slapping on like a reshade skin, basically.
Texture packs and whatnot.
And then calling it good. See, that's why the term remaster always gets me nervous, but the term remake always gets me rock hard.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially like the new Resident Evil 2 remake that they're doing. Like, I don't know if either of you have seen anything about that.
Oh my god, it looks so good.
It looks fantastic.
We won't get to play it for like 7 years.
I know, right? Same thing with the Final Fantasy VII remake.
Yep. The Spyro remake, looking on point, looks really good.
Yeah, it does. So yes, in a manner speaking, there is a lot of sure there are remasters that are worth it, but not all of them are. But I do like kind of like Derek was mentioning, just having a virtual store, just being able to buy the original game. PlayStation,
or even in cases like putting it on the Switch and being able to take it with you. I mean, you couldn't take it on 64 with you back in the day.
See, PlayStation did a fantastic job of that. I mean, going back to Resident Evil, I've loved the Resident Evil franchise, and then when I was able to buy them for my PS3, that was great. Just being able to go back and play the games without having to hunt them down in a store. I wish that we had that right now with the PS4. Yeah.
If only Sony made some sort of mobile platform that would have been, that people could take with them.
PS Vita. Failed console.
Sounds like you're
PS Vita,
got a cough there.
Yeah, it's definitely, like I said, it's because I'm sick. I'm not sure what's going on.
He actually does, yeah.
I actually do have a cough.
You're sure it just wasn't the thought of the PS Vita just making you sick?
Oh man, I have 2 games on that I love, and that's Persona 4 Golden and Final Fantasy X or Final Fantasy X-2, which I guess technically 3 games, but one of them's a 2-in-1. All 3 of them are remakes. The PS Vita should have just been a remake console. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. One thing that I don't think we've touched on is that it's been a long time that the ROM world, or whatever it's called, has existed. I think the answer is self-evident, but why do you think Nintendo's doing it only just now doing it?
That's a very good question, actually. I don't know that I really have an answer to that.
Yeah, I don't either. Well, to kind of piggyback off what you said, though, I mean, Amy Paradise, one of the main sites that we were talking about, it's 18 years going, so it's like, it's been around for a while.
So the reason why a lot of people are speculating why they're finally doing this is a couple of things. One, the huge success of the Super NES Mini things that they sold.
Okay.
So the fact that they're remaking those consoles, so there's nostalgia market there, but also the fact that they're redistributing a lot of their old game libraries on the Nintendo's digital marketplace, like on the Switch and things like that. So there's kind of been a sort of, it's weird that video games are just now getting into it, even though it sort of seems like Hollywood's been doing it for a while, but the whole remake or cashing in on nostalgia. Obviously, Sony, they had the remake of I almost said Banjo-Kazooie.
Shadow of the Colossus.
Crash Band. Yeah, well, Shadow Colossus, but the Crash Bandicoot, which sold really, really well. And same thing for Nintendo. They're finding like, oh wait, you mean if we actually take a game and give it the care and attention it deserves, and then re-release it, we're gonna make a lot of money. So the fact that that's becoming a thing for Nintendo, that they're basically getting paid twice for games that they've already made.
Right.
I just wonder if there's like an argument to be made for like the statute of limitations for copyright law that exists in this field, because like I just know that these sites have been active and been creating and hosting ROMs
but
for so long.
copyright lasts for like forever, doesn't it? It's like 75 years or something ridiculous.
Yeah, it's
until it goes public domain. Yeah, well, but even then you can lobby, like companies like especially like Disney will lobby to push it back another 20 to 30 years after that point when it starts getting near. I guess why Mickey Mouse still isn't in public domain.
Let's see. Works published after 1922 but before 1978 are protected for 95 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it keeps going up. It keeps going up, and they'll pay it off to do that. But yeah, no, maybe in this case, yeah, maybe that is not necessarily something they could argue. I feel this, well in advance, but they're trying to do it right now, and I'm not exactly sure why, but it does. I guess if they're seeing this done elsewhere and they're able to make success or make something successful out of it, then they're going to try to pursue it. It's just that I don't know. It all seems kind of fishy to me, but ultimately, my whole perspective is just like I already paid for it once. I shouldn't have to pay for it again.
Especially if you can't even access it.
Yeah, exactly. If I can't access it, so I'm not going to pay for it. And. Yeah, so I just feel like it's kind of something where it's like, I already have what I'm owed by, having this ROM. Is it the best avenue to which I could be playing the game? Absolutely not, but it's because I have no other option in a lot of these cases. Some of these ROMs I would literally have to break out like 30-year-old systems to play.
Oh yeah.
It also makes me wonder if the Barbra Streisand effect will come into play here. Are you familiar with that at all? It basically means that the more you try to get rid of something, the more it'll persist. So I wonder if, a lot of these ROMs, if the more like Nintendo tries to chase after them, they'll probably just get chased out to like, servers that are just... Was
there just a massive movement to like get rid of her songs? And it was just...
No, I believe it was
she had a
unflattering image.
Yeah, so no, well, kind of. Basically, it's like there was like an article or something that showed like houses of like wealthy people or something like that, or maybe it was just even showing houses on like the California coast, and her house was one of those houses, and so she like filed a lawsuit to have that house taken off out of the article or taken off the website, and because she wanted to get rid of it, it
spread
she's putting the spotlight on it, so it's like you can't put the spotlight on something to try to get rid of it in this day and age and actually like have that not be the case.
It's the same thing that happened with the Beyonce picture for like the Super Bowl with the stupid face.
Take that down, and then there's like 5 million more copies of it the next month.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
A classic example is that rock song "Only the Good Die Young." A lot of churches petitioned to have that song wasn't even that popular, but then a lot of churches petitioned to have that song taken off the radio, which just made it boosted it to the number one on the charts like immediately. Yeah. So yeah, I wonder if basically what I'm assuming is that like it's like because it's always a supply and demand thing. So it's like if they push it off of these maybe less, it's like they're operating in a moral gray area, but it's like they're not like super malicious sites. But it's like, well, if people want access to these games, websites are going to pop up that have servers in places that copyright doesn't last.
See, on top of that, there's already other sites where you don't even have to download them. You can just play them in the browser.
Yeah, I mean, look at Pirate Bay. Like, Pirate Bay is still last to this day, even though it's like they went on a huge campaign to get rid of it.
Yeah, no, I mean, to be fair, they do have to hop servers like once every 3 months.
Yeah, but they still do it.
They do still do
there.
it.
And even if they take down the Pirate Bay, something else will pop up. So it's like, once it's on the internet, you're never going to get it off. But
Yeah,
It's
you know,
gonna-
you
it's
just
gonna- it's
gotta
gonna find
remove
a
the ease
way.
of access, and it'll end
Yeah.
up on a site that has like spyware and all sorts of malicious viruses and shit like that. So it's it's not great. Kind of like war on drugs. In a way, it's like, yeah, it's bad, but by over attacking it, you force it into these dark corners where it only hurts people. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out.
True.
Most definitely. I think we've squeezed all the blood we can out of this stone, though.
Delicious blood.
No blood. Goes out for blood.
Reed, do you have a topic today?
I do. It's one that's very near and dear to my heart, and it's also near and dear. Well, it's physically near to me right now. So the reason why I was late joining the podcast is I am currently not in the United States, and no, I'm not on the run from the law. I am up in Vancouver to watch what some regard as the biggest video game tournament ever. Which is the International Dota 2 Championships, which holds the. Let me look up the list. Record esports prize. I think it holds the top 7 places. Okay, yeah, it holds the top 4 record. So last year it broke the record with a prize pool of $24.6 million. And the next 3 in line after that are the consecutive internationals for this. It hasn't showed this year's international because the prize pool hasn't been paid out yet, but that'll also... and it looks like this year has eclipsed that. So this year now has the largest prize pool for any video game tournament to ever exist, ever.
Yeah, that's a crazy milestone.
So, I mean, we're just talking about like a grassroots thing then, right? Like just getting on their feet.
Well, it's funny that you say that it's grassroots because, the International uses basically sort of like a digital compendium or a digital item that it sells to the player base to kind of help crowdfund this prize pool, which is how it really started breaking records
That's actually
back
very
in
interesting.
2014. Because it used to be that Valve would just say like, oh, here's $1 million prize pool. Then they, it wasn't 2014. I'm sorry, it was 2013, and they sold basically a compendium. They said like, 25% of all proceeds of this will go to the prize pool, and it took it from being about $1 million to being about $3 million, which was like huge at the time. This is back in 2013 when esports wasn't even, talked about. It was still kind of a joke to a lot of people. But here's like real money, $3 million for a video game, which is like, that's more than Survivor, guys.
Right.
And here we are 5 years later, and they use that same model. They kind of changed it up a little bit, got some feedback, and now they've really, instead of just selling the compendium, you're able to basically buy like a more advanced version of it, but you can buy levels to it in order to get access to specialized skins and cosmetics and different things you can interact with. There's a very robust fantasy player set. Fantasy, like you get like trading cards, digital trading cards for each player, and you can use those players to basically build your fantasy team for that day. It's really, really a cool experience in and of itself. And that's not even the tournament. That's just how they've kind of raised this sort of record-breaking prize pool.
Okay, yeah, that's certainly very interesting. And yeah, I mean, as you said, I mean, Dota's not exactly my cup of tea. I don't know a whole lot about it.
To give to anybody who's not listened before or listened to me talk about Dota before, to give them a quick heads up about what Dota is. It's basically think of it as a team game, but is sort of like a top-down strategy game. You work with basically 4 other players. So it's a team of 5 versus a team of 5. It's on a fixed map, and the objective of the game is basically your base is constantly pushing out wave after wave of computer-controlled units that go and fight the other enemy computer-controlled units, and you use your one singular hero unit to basically build up enough gold and experience and advantage to become strong enough that your team can then push against the other team's base and destroy it. When the other team's base is destroyed, you win the game. It's a very simple concept, but there's a lot of depth that really has a huge skill ceiling that makes the game actually like a really great thing to watch. I would say even people who have never played the game before, feel free to catch a game, especially around grand finals time. The casting is done like very, very professionally, and it's a joy to watch, even if you have absolutely no idea what's going on.
I was seeing earlier today there was TSM and Team Liquid.
Yep.
Went at it. Yeah.
Maybe not earlier today because I think they had the day off.
Okay, gotcha.
So, let's see. Yeah. I think it was. Who was I actually have been moving the last couple of days, and I've been on the road, so I haven't been able to watch the last couple of days. I did get a little bit caught up, and I am aware of the standings. It might have been TSM. Oh yeah, it looks like there was a tiebreaker match. So, yeah, it's pretty cool. I will just give people a little bit of information about the different teams. So, unlike other esports, there's a lot of skill in a lot of different regions. So there's no dominant region. A lot of people are very competitive, including even like some North American teams, which normally aren't super competitive in a lot of esports realms. But man, there's sort of like some team favorites that everybody can root for. So just kind of going down the list, some of the big names to look out for. So VGJ Storm was actually a very sort of underdog Chinese team that came in, and they have been absolutely crushing it in the group stages. Oh, Storm's the American team? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm being corrected. Oh, Thunder's the Chinese team. Okay, sorry, I'm also our little hotel room with a friend of mine. Yeah, so that's actually another. So there's like
our esteemed media team in the background.
Yeah, sure I have a team of fact checkers waiting in the wings to jump on. No, so yeah, the in sort of like CIS, which is kind of like the Eastern European or like kind of Russian scene. There's Virtus Pro, which is one of the heavy favorites. Another European team that we have is Team Secret. They're also doing well. Team Liquid is another huge favorite. They're a European team. And then the Chinese favorite is going to be LGD. They've just been looking great all year. One of quite a number of events. And then the big surprise, I think, for a lot of people is the North American team Evil Geniuses, which is a pretty popular esports company.
They do very well in the Rainbow Six circuit.
Mm-hmm. And they did not have a lot of great years or a great year. You know, in a lot of the majors, they had very poor performances. But pull up the roster right here. They have been crushing it in the group stages. You know, EG kind of has this record for doing bad all year and then suddenly showing up to TI and playing like a completely different team. And that rule kind of holds true this year so far.
Is it their same lineup every time, or they switch?
No, they've yeah. In fact, almost every team there's a huge reshuffle that tends to happen every year after the internationals. Every team tries to make this very competitive team, and definitely now that there's a lot more money that's not just in the international. There's like a lot of tournaments throughout the year that have very big prize pools. They want to be very competitive throughout the entire year. This year, they have, other than like a two core people that have been with the team since last year, Artur Babev, also known as Arteezy, he's a Canadian. He's a famous meme lord and streamer. Then there's the other teammate who's been on since last year. His name's Sumail, and this kid kind of came out as the boy wonder about 3 years ago. He was about 16 when he started playing for EG, and he won the international in 2014. Oh, 2015. Yeah, it was TI5. So here he is, like a 16-year-old kid, and he just won like $2 million playing Dota 2.
Yeah.
EG has held on to him because he is truly like one of the most talented players in the entire scene, and he has had exceptional performances this year. I mean, absolutely, just really being like a really strong cornerstone for the rest of the team to build on. Even though he's so young, he's now 19, I believe. No, he'd be 20. Yeah.
20 what? I'm sorry, you cut out there.
21, I think. No, he's 19. I was right.
Wow. Yeah, so these guys are really young, and they're looking at a chance to earn.
Well, he's really young, but a lot of these other players are quite a bit older. You know, last year, Fear, who played for EG, he was like almost 30 years old, which is in some of the other esports considered ancient. You know, and that's kind of what makes it fun, because in Dota 2 you get to see a lot of returning names. And also rounding up the rest of EG's team, there's S4, who's played for old teams like Alliance, just a really good core player. And then there's Crit and Fly, both really good support players. So, yeah, it's looking to be a really, really great tournament. It all kicks off tomorrow, where we'll have 2 best-of-3 upper bracket teams, and then all of the lower bracket teams are going to play tomorrow. So we're going to see 4 eliminations. So there's going to be a lot of Dota tomorrow.
How much longer is it all going on for?
It's going all the way until Saturday.
Saturday. Wow.
Yeah, so it's a whole week-long event.
That's awesome.
So can we anticipate that being your topic next week as well? Is the actual recap?
Yeah, it might be a little bit of a recap. I mean, unless something crazy happens, that's probably going to be my main topic. I'm going to try to maybe get a little bit of footage, do a little bit of reporting on what happens each day, and give a nice little summary of the whole week. And what it's like, you know, to also go to one of these events too. So, because I don't know if a lot of people make that trip. So,
I think that would certainly be really interesting. And yeah, I know if you can get any footage, I'll be sure to throw it up on the YouTube channel. Which is a good time to plug our shit. Hey, we have a YouTube channel. Just look us up at Not Important Gaming Podcast. We should be the first thing that pops up.
Nice.
And anything Reed ends up recording out there, I will put up on the channel.
Yeah, because you know, a lot of people can watch esports, you know, online, but I tell you what, this is the 3rd international I've been to, and there's just something special about being in a huge arena. I mean, not just like a small venue, not like a convention center buried in the back room of a hotel, like an actual freaking arena, and just having just packed to the gills full of people, and everyone's like cheering and losing their minds at amazing plays. It's something else, man. I gotta tell you.
I'm hoping.
Well, with the money in that prize pool, I would hope it'd be kind of big, you know. I mean,
oh yeah,
for just the prize pool of it itself, yeah.
Yeah, and I tell you what, the international sells out every year. I think this year it sold out in like 15 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm hoping to next year actually go to see the Rainbow Six Invitational.
Where's that going to be at?
Where is that going to be at? A very good question.
I think Rainbow Six is one of those games that I'm destined to like watch the crap out of, but never play. Because I watch some people play it, and the game is like so fascinating and so interesting.
It is absolutely worth
playing.
Man,
is it intimidating?
It's got a decent skill ceiling. It definitely there is quite a bit of a cap. Looks like at least this year. Is that? Am I seeing that right? Is that Montreal?
Could be. You'll have to get your passport and come join me up in Canada land.
February 13th to 18th. Yeah, this has already happened, actually. So yeah, it'll be next year that I end up going to that. But yes, I believe it is Montreal from what I'm seeing.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. Montreal's a good city.
Yeah, no, it's something that I've wanted to go to for several years now. I've actually been neglecting Rainbow Six a little bit, trying to get stuff recorded for the show.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But,
Who's your? I actually haven't watched any esports for that. But who's your favorite team?
My team is Rogue Gaming.
Okay.
And they're kind of well, what was interesting about them, I believe it was either the last tournament or the tournament before. They'd had kind of a reputation of not being really that great, and then at a certain point they actually just disappeared. They weren't showing up to tournaments, and then they showed up at one tournament. It was like a night and day shift. They ended up, I believe, they actually went to the finals. They didn't win, but they went all the way to the finals, and like this completely different team playing a lot of these old strats that players weren't used to playing against. Because this is the thing with Siege. Once you get like the upper levels, you're not playing like traditional strats. You're trying to play strats like it's whoever can come up with the most bizarre strategy is going to come out on top.
Mind games.
Yeah, absolutely, mind games. And you'll see, like, because in low rank gameplay, you'll see a lot of defenders reinforcing the defending room, and they'll be trying to block everything, like basically prevent access into the defending room. But
Like a turtle strat.
Like a turtle strat, exactly. But then when you watch like high level gameplay, that's not how they play at all. Instead, they're heading out to like the lower, like setting up reinforcements on floors that the objective isn't even on, because it's it's all about setting up situations where your roamers can hit and just slowly bleed out the enemy team before they can make a concentrated push on the objective.
Yeah, I've seen some clips, man, and these kids are nuts.
It's insane.
Watching people shoot C4 out of the air is like actually insane.
Yeah, no, it's great. I've had that happen to me exactly once, and I will tell you, it's the most deflating thing that could possibly happen to you.
Click, 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 click. Why is it not going off? Oh my goodness. But yeah, esports, it's cool. And this is, by prize pool, the biggest esports tournament ever. So.
Yeah, I'm actually very interested. I will probably watch a little bit of it. Like I said, it's not exactly my.
I'll link some stuff to you guys because Valve, who runs Dota 2, they've hired some great documentary teams, and they've done great pieces in the past that kind of like really give you a sense of the game, or like kind of how the tournament plays without actually explaining the game itself. And it does a really good job of kind of showing you what the whole thing is all about. I will look some of those up, and then we can maybe like link them in the description for the YouTube when this goes up on the this podcast goes up there.
Absolutely.
And I definitely recommend you guys watching it too, because they're really great pieces of film, especially some of the ones that cover some of the players, like the sort of player histories. They're like real tearjerkers, and they're like really get you excited for cheering for certain teams that you otherwise wouldn't end up caring about.
All right, that sounds awesome. Yeah, for sure. And you said it's gonna be going on all the rest of this week until this weekend, so there's still like a lot of more content.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Last week they did sort of like group stage, like round robin type stuff to kind of help seed the tournament, and now it's like the real deal, big stage. And it's not just the tournament too. They also have a lot of other fun events. They do like all-star matches and like celebrity games sort of stuff. And there's like cosplay competitions and all sorts of different events. So it'll be a lot of content, a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it sounds pretty well-rounded. Yeah, it's awesome.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so that pretty much covers everything. I wish I had more to kind of get into now, or wish I had a little bit more preparation. But like I say, I've been on the road for the last 3 days, so but I'll definitely have a little bit more, or maybe a lot of it more next weekend. Kind of, we'll see.
All right. I think we've done pretty much everything with that topic. So, if you guys are ready, I think we'll move on to our final topic of the night, which is EA being absolute garbage.
EA being EA.
EA being EA. Yeah. Made a joke earlier that I think I'm just thinking about just changing the name of the podcast to the Shitty on EA podcast. With as much as we end up doing that. But not too long ago, I believe it was earlier this week, EA had made a statement. Basically, there was a lot of complaints about the new Command & Conquer game, which I don't know if either of you have seen anything about that or know what's going on with Command & Conquer.
Yeah, I saw it at E3 when they announced it.
Yes.
They showcased it, and they had a couple of people come on stage to like demo it.
I
vaguely remember they had a couple of people on stage. It was like 2 teenage kids, right? Or was that like some other game?
I don't fully remember, to be honest. But
I vaguely remember they had the cam like focused down onto them, and they were trying to like show the controls of it like on their phones, like while demoing the gameplay at the same time. Yeah, it was just a mess.
Ugh.
It's awful for this.
So to kind of explain what's going on with it, give a little backstory. What happened was basically Command & Conquer, a beloved real-time strategy franchise, one that I had quite a bit of fun with back when I was growing up, back when I was in high school. EA has decided to bring it onto a mobile platform.
Oh my god, it's so bad.
Yeah, and wow, that always does well for the fans. I mean, we saw how much people loved. What was it? Not War for the Overworld, but again, Dungeon Maker or Dungeon Master, something like that. Man, I don't know why I'm blanking on this because I like this game as well. But it's used to be a pretty standard run-of-the-mill, just kind of mobile military real-time strategy game. And I mean, it's one of those things. As somebody who, I grew up with Command & Conquer Generals, and I had a great time with that, playing that online. Is seeing this go the direction of mobile, seeing it go like very obviously low effort mobile. I mean, it's got that look in the gameplay and in the art style. There's no real difference between it and like Clash of Clans or something like that.
Oh my god, yeah, no, it's garbage.
So what had happened was this had garnered quite a bit of controversy. I believe even to the point where when it was announced, I think the crowd like groaned audibly when it was shown. Because a bunch of people got really excited when they saw Command & Conquer, and then they saw it was a mobile game, and like you just heard this wave of like, oh, go over the crowd when they realized what was happening. So in a response to all this controversy, EA has come out and functionally said that gamers don't know what they want, and that they are going to be sticking to the mobile platform. And it was the manner of speaking. It was this act of like talking down to the consumers, and basically saying, "Stupid gamers, you don't." Listen to us, the soulless corporation, when we tell you exactly what kind of game you want, because you don't want your beloved franchise to remain a full-fledged real-time strategy game on PC that handles itself well. No. What you want is this budget gotcha box real-time strategy game that is just a skin of Clash of Clans. It's just a skin of what is the other like big one right now? just pick a hat. There's one for every single franchise. I'm genuinely shocked there wasn't a Command and Conquer one already.
It's true. Gamers don't know what they want. That's why we pay our video game overlord to tell us what to think and what to
Jesus.
want.
Yeah. Don't even get me started on that. But I mean, it's just that level of
it's
arrogance.
true arrogance.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. It's true arrogance. And keep in mind, okay, this is already bad enough that EA would come out and say this. Like, that's already as insulting of a statement as I heard in recent times coming from any company, to say that they think their consumers don't know what they want and it's them who has to decide what the consumers want for them, because that's a mistake they made. To think that and that's what they said, the quote is for us, I think people make the mistake of saying this is what you really want, when mentioning the decision to make the next Command and Conquer game, mobile game. It's that was already bad enough, but the fact that it came from the chief design officer, okay, he's not just some random C-level employee at EA. He sits right next to the CEO at board meetings. This is a high up guy. The company just smells like shit from the top on down, and this is just proof of it. They also went on to claim, they said mobile is the biggest gaming platform on the planet today, and then went on to say we're going to come to a point where we need to respect mobile games as much as console games. So I did a little digging into it, and I think this is actually funny, because if they truly believe that this to be true, then I wonder why they haven't attempted to give as much effort to Madden or NCAA in the mobile market, right? So apparently they actually did do a mobile game for Madden NFL. It's called Madden NFL Mobile. And the same day that released, its counterpart, the actual big Madden game, Madden 2015, that released on all the major platforms, released the same day, but got significantly better reviews than the mobile game. So I'm wondering why they think that mobile is the future. They're trying to convince the Command and Conquer fans that that's the direction they want to go, when they can't even secure better ratings or even know anywhere near as good ratings on their major platform games as the under-budget shitty mobile ones.
Yeah, I don't think they actually honestly believe it. It's just they're trying to say sort of PR legalese.
It's for their
excuse why they want to make the decisions that they want. Because basically what EA wants is they want low overhead, high profitability games. And so they want to invest as little time and money as possible to maximize the return. And mobile games offer that because they can just put some very light, small amount of work into a game, a little bit of design, a little bit of art, and then they just set it on its way, and then it makes money. Even if it's just a little bit, they didn't put a lot in to begin with. So, and yeah, that basically sort of fits their market strategy, and also why they've been successful, because they don't know how to make good games, but they know how to make profitable games, and that works for them.
It's crazy because when I was actually looking this up, this game Madden NFL Mobile, if you type that into Google, the little knowledge panel that comes in on the right side, where it gives you just the general overlay of the game and the stats, the initial release date, the series, developers, platforms, right, that you see on Google when you type in something official. So the game comes up and it says Madden NFL Mobile. Right underneath that, mobile game, right underneath that, and I can type in Madden NFL Mobile reviews, and I'm going to get all of the other independent review sites that gave it a 68% or whatever that, or a 3 out of 5 or what have you, where Madden 2015, the game that released the same day, that was the major platform one, got significantly higher reviews. Well, they have a 5 out of 5 review pasted right on that knowledge panel. It's the only review that they're offering. It shows 5 out of 5, got just 100%. It was it's just a really great game, perfect. Madden NFL Mobile. I click into it, and apparently the company that reviewed it is EA Swiss Sorrel, which obviously the parent company is EA. So it's EA trying to conflate their own games on their knowledge panel on Google to have a perfect score for the review. It's it's just disingenuous as you would imagine them to be, but it's just it adds kind of a little laughable factor to it. It's when they don't get the reviews they want, they artificially create them.
Oh yeah, no, it's they've been. I mean, it's a really sneaky tactic. They've been. I mean, like you said, it smells like shit from the top down with them.
Eventually, yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's frustrating because they can just keep doing what they're gonna do, and as long as they have FIFA to keep printing money for them, they'll have the financial capital to keep doing it. You know.
See,
Yeah, it's just awful.
I think we talked about this last week, either last week or the week before. I don't even understand how FIFA is keeping them afloat.
Well,
because
they have a monopoly on making the video game for the most popular sport in the entire world.
For most of the sports, just in general, they have monopoly on football,
but if you look at the
basketball,
numbers,
and obviously, like
all of that is just like not even a speck of poop on the giant ass that is FIFA.
Yeah, FIFA is worldwide versus the
amount of money that they make off of that game is absolutely ludicrous. I don't know the exact stats, but I remember when I did see them that it was just not even comparable. Like it's just a whole orders of magnitude larger than everything else that EA does.
I still find it funny to not to get too far off topic, but it was like 3 years ago where the FIFA head, I think I still remember his name, is like Sepp Blatter or something like that, and he was like, I think he was caught rigging the games, or he was like betting on games, and it found out to be completely rigged from the top down, and like they were looking, and it's like the real FIFA, and there was this huge backlash over it, and like everybody in the community was like telling him to step down, and he just completely ignored them. The press went away, and he's still the head. It's like, yeah, that's crazy. It's like there's so much corruption and like high level, high capacity, companies and organizations, and it's just like in leagues like that it doesn't really surprise me that like EA can just kind of like turn the other cheek to all the bad press and stuff like that instead of actually addressing it. And same thing with like, the actual leagues and organizations that they monopoly in. So.
Here's an article from last year, so it's not the most up to date, but FIFA made up 40% of their entire revenue for 2016.
Wow.
And I think So, and I think it's even larger now, an even larger source of the prize. They say they put out a statement by 2021. They expect FIFA's annual unit sales to exceed 20 million and to bring in more than 3 billion with a B, 3 billion annually for EA. Just one game.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
See, it's just, I mean, when you look at numbers like that, it's just insane to see them bringing in money like that, and then just fundamentally failing to deliver on products that the consumers want. They have the resources, they have the time. The only thing they're missing is the willingness to put in the effort and the willingness to divert funds to what needs to be done. Like, I mean, they have to be looking at these other games, these companies that actually care about the games they're making, and see that a good quality game does make money regularly. Like, I have yet to see.
Yeah, but I mean but it's risky too, because you can invest and try to make a good game, but if you don't, you lose that investment. And what EA goes for is safe and secure, which is the language. I mean, stability is like the currency of the financial world.
Well, I feel like it's even simpler than that. Like, not even to sound like defeatist about it all, but like, it would be nice, if they actually cared about delivering a quality product. But it's like, just off of the numbers you cited, like, let that be the case in and of itself. Like, why should they need it? You know what I mean? If it's like capitalism run rampant, and like the only real check and balance against monopoly or against like capitalism to see like the worst end of it is to not allow a company to become a monopoly in any given field. Is to like encourage competition. And like EA has run unimpeded for all of this time. It's like, do they even need to like care about, you know, customer concern when they're making that much money? Just when they throw, like, they could fling a piece of shit across the room and make more money than like every other studio around them is making off of a single game. It's just like, so it's like, does it even matter? You know, and having to say that.
I feel like, especially after what we saw with Battlefront, is like they have a lot of capital right now, and they have access to some really powerful licenses like Star Wars and obviously FIFA and a lot of the other sports franchises, but they can't actually put out crap without getting some feedback. I mean, like getting some backlash. I mean, there was maybe that was just like a one-off scenario, but I could totally see EA actually eventually getting bitten back. Now, I don't think that'll ever affect their FIFA market, but I guarantee you, if they do that, you know, companies like Disney or other license providers, it's like they will sell their licenses to EA if, like, they don't trust EA to make a good product.
And I mean, it's interesting that you brought up Battlefront, because actually for the first time, at least that I can think of, EA's reporting Battlefront 5's pre-orders as being in their own terms weak. I think that has to do with the stance they took on the complaints regarding Battlefront 5, and again this attitude that they have that they can get away with whatever they want.
Wait, are you saying Battlefield 5 or Battlefield 2?
Yeah, Battlefield. Excuse me.
Oh, okay.
To be fair, they have already. I mean, like, I don't know. They've already released gameplay, and people have already played it. And there's not going to be a loot box system in Battlefield 5.
You're right. I mean, but that should be expected. They shouldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
They shouldn't be praised for that. That should be like the norm.
Agreed. Yeah, I'm just saying, like, I can see why they would have won back some sort of like credit.
But they really haven't, though. I mean, that's the thing.
Battlefield does look like a good game.
It looks like a good game, but I mean, the attitude they've had towards complaints about the game, about what they've shown, especially regarding, you know, the British female amputee soldiers on the front lines, which, I mean, say what you will about it. Honestly, at this point, it doesn't matter to me. But I understand where people are coming from when they say, you know, I mean, Battlefield has always had a degree of realism about it.
To be fair, though, well, I think outside of that, though, it's like this is made by a different studio than the one that made the Command and Conquer game, and the strategy behind it, I think, is different. Like, it looks like they might have tried to make a decent game, and so I think in that case,
Oh, sure. I mean, DICE has always made an effort to make a good game.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, we get discouraged about the shit that EA does sometimes, but you know, this is something that kind of stands as a counterpoint to that. You know, it looks like it might be a decent game. The last Battlefield game was actually pretty fun. I enjoyed the crap out of it. Put several hours into it. Definitely got my money's worth. So
That's what I've heard.
Battlefield 5 is going through its second round of its alpha playtest.
something like that. Yeah, beta.
Yeah, I thought I remember people or seeing people play it again. Is it?
Mm-hmm.
I thought they were calling it an alpha, which really confused me because I would consider it to be a beta that it's like that far along in development to obviously have like clear textures and like an actual map and shit. Like alpha testing is like so fucking early that it's like, you know, I mean, if you're calling your game an alpha and it's like it looks fully built, like you're just trying to sell that as an alpha. You know, it's not actually. But yeah, they were like calling it an alpha. But I saw people like playing it live. I was like, I thought it closed 3 weeks ago, like that. But apparently they did a second round of gameplay. So.
But also, I mean, it looks like
sure those servers work.
They're going to end up in kind of the same situation that they did with Titanfall 2. And at least this time they're not doing it themselves like they did with Titanfall 2, releasing it like a week after Battlefield 1. But they're releasing it like sandwiched in between two huge games, or releasing it in between Black Ops 4 and Red Dead Redemption. And I mean,
Red Dead Redemption looks good.
Red Dead Redemption looks fantastic, but
Black Ops looks bad.
It's Call of Duty, of course. It's. I feel like that goes without saying at this point.
Well, I'm never one to prejudge.
That's true. I mean, it
looks bad.
Could Black Ops or Black Ops 4 come out and be my favorite game of the year? Is it a possibility? Yes, absolutely. But if I were to put a bet on it, like I would not put any money on that possibility at all.
Especially without a single player or anything.
But it is still going to be a massive game that a ton of people are going to buy. And the fact
they already killed the mood with that like Pro Edition or whatever that was. The special edition. The season pass with it.
Oh my god, yeah.
But I mean, just the fact
like the second they did that, it's like, do you really want to ruin like the PR for your game before it even gets traction?
Yeah, I'll tell you what though, it's like Call of Duty sales have continued to go down, so maybe they'll eventually learn. You know,
it's a possibility.
People with their wallets. I'll bet you less people are pre-ordering.
It's not even like a typical
Eventually
like, we're just trying to screw you over a little bit. It's like 12 whole maps that they are creating a pay gate for right out the bat. It's not like over time. Like it's just as soon as the game comes out, it's like, here's 12 maps we created that we just did not want to actually import onto the disc. You know, like we're just going to have you pay for it.
Standard season pass stuff. The issue is that they're barring the ability to buy them a la carte like you've been able to in the past. Which is, I guess, which is my big point of contention. Again, not even playing Call of Duty, like I can't imagine being somebody who actually plays Call of Duty. That must be like the most infuriating position to be in.
Yeah. So there's like a whole thing. Like, I mean, so the season pass is like they actually have maps that they're planning on releasing over time. Are those the 12 maps that they were talking about initially with the game? Like,
yes, basically what they're doing now, because you've always been able to buy a season pass and basically get all of the maps as they come out. What they've done this time, but you've also been able to buy the maps as they come out, like without buying the season pass. I believe it was typically a little more expensive, but at the end of the day, I mean, that's how most people did their buying of map packs. But as in an attempt to basically force people's hands, they've basically made it so that you have two options. You either buy the whole season pass and everything that comes with it, or the like $100-something that it's worth.
Yeah, it's really expensive.
Well, not that it's worth, but that they're charging. Or you don't get any of the map packs. And what they're betting on, they know that they have to know they're going to be losing. They're going to be losing players with this. But I think they have enough of a player base and enough people that are willing to, to buy this massive package of maps, that they're basically hoping that they can squeeze out a few more people who are gonna pay for that, just because they have to now.
They've secured enough mom's credit cards.
Exactly. I'm a huge proponent of always being the up and up and being just pro-consumer, and this is about the most anti-consumer decision I've heard of in a very long time. I mean, this puts any complaint I have about EA to shame. Like, somewhere in a boardroom, like there's EA execs with notepads, like looking at how
taking notes, furiously taking notes.
Exactly.
Did you get that? Rewind it. Look at that.
Yeah, no, it's. I mean, it's astounding to me that they can do something like this and actually get away with it, and actually have people buy this pack, and they're going to. They're gonna have people buying them by the hundreds.
Yeah, I mean, I hope not. I hope people vote with their wallets, but we'll see.
But going back to the reason that I even brought up, that I even brought up the game Call of Duty, it's the fact that Battlefield 5 is going to be released in between Black Ops 4 and Red Dead Redemption. It seems like they're setting themselves up for failure. It seems like they didn't learn their lesson when Titanfall 2 came out, which is a fantastic game and went completely under the radar. Well, not completely under the radar, but failed, and I don't think we're ever going to see another Titanfall because they released it immediately after the much bigger and much more successful Battlefield 1. They basically killed their own game.
I believe it.
And they're about to do the same thing to Battlefield 5, which is already surrounded by controversy, which already has a whole bunch of problems, and they're just stacking their own, I mean, problems relatively speaking.
Mm-hmm.
There are a ton of people who are upset about it, like it or not. And it's already showing in the numbers. It's showing in the pre-order numbers. They're not bringing in the sales that they expected with their pre-order.
I mean, they burned a lot of goodwill when they pulled all that shit with Battlefield or Battlefront 2.
Oh, absolutely. And they're,
I bet you as a whole, a lot of people aren't pre-ordering as much as they used to since that. I'm just like for everybody.
Oh yeah, I don't doubt that people are still pre-ordering games. Just I don't think people.
No, I'm saying that they don't pre-order games.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. I think that a lot of people have kind of learned a hard lesson from that. You know, I feel like I did.
I think what's going to happen, and it happens every time something like this happens. People get burned. They're upset about it for a long time, for a few years, and then another big popular game comes out, and everyone gets super excited for it, and the game rakes in pre-orders hand over fist. So this is not the game that EA is going to be making all their pre-order money on, but later on down the road, they're going to have another game that comes out, looks fantastic, and they're going to get a ton of pre-order money off of it.
Nope. Hello?
Yep, I'm still here. Sorry.
Sorry, I think my mic cut out.
It's gonna be this perpetual. I mean, it has been this perpetual cycle of developers testing, or not developers, publishers testing the waters, figuring out what they can and can't get away with, and then proceeding from there.
I'll tell you what. You know what my big hope for is, or what my big hope is? My hope is on the next generation. All these kids, they're gonna grow up and they're gonna see the shit. Like, they're gonna hear their parents complain, and they're gonna be better than us. That's my hope. It's probably not gonna happen. But
I hope for that across the board, across everything. It's just like, let's learn from the mistakes of the past and not continue them. It would be nice.
Yeah, and it's and you know, we as the keepers should try to not dick them over as much. You know, too much. Give them a fair chance.
Yeah, too much. Just destroy their spirit a little bit.
I mean, everybody needs to have their spirits and hopes crushed just a little bit.
Yeah, it builds character.
Exactly.
So yeah,
dig holes. It builds character.
Between their statement about their statement about Command and Conquer, the fact that they basically just said, "Shut up, you don't know what you're talking about. We know what we're talking about," and between that and Battlefront 5, it's.
If it was a good game, maybe they might be right. Honestly,
yeah. If it was like a full-fledged game and like they were just making a couple of weird, questionable decisions, I might back them up a little bit on it. But that's not what this is. It's a low effort.
If it was a franchise that people cared about, you know what I mean?
You mean if it wasn't?
If it was, like, if it was a franchise that people, I mean, like, some people kind of like Command and Conquer, but it doesn't have a huge fan base anymore. You know, not since it died like fucking 4 years ago.
You're breaking my heart.
Well, the last Command and Conquer game, what was it? Command and Conquer 4. I want to say it was 2010, and they got like kind of average reviews. It didn't really get too well, but yeah, that was in 2010. So it's been 8 years. 8 years, and then EA comes back with this, and it's just like, well, if you thought that thing was in the dirt before, it's like, you know, it's not 6 feet under, it's like 10.
Oh boy, hold my beer. Watch us burn this game to the ground.
I mean, like I liked Command and Conquer back in the day too, but it's like, you know, they sold to EA. EA cut all the corners in developing that, you know,
Rivals.
Rivals.
Yeah.
And then the whole thing, like, StarCraft came and ate its lunch, and then it was dead, you know. EA shelved it. They never did anything with it again, and it lost all of its momentum and fan base, and people forgot about it.
Man, I just want to go back to the days of Generals, where I get to play online. Got to build up massive angry mobs and straight up Zerg rush people's bases with these things.
Well, just wait until EA realizes that they can resell you all their old stuff like Nintendo has.
Yeah.
See, that's the worst part. I'll probably buy it.
What you need to do, Jeremy, is go out and find ROMs for old Command and Conquer games and play it.
I could
you still can before EA shuts them down.
I probably could find a working torrent of Command and Conquer Generals if I really wanted to.
Dude, that's actually Total Biscuit. His wife, I remember there was actually like a Twitch clip. I think she was streaming, and when she was watching E3, and this was like shortly after he passed, she was watching the on-stage presentation of the new Command and Conquer Rivals, and she was just like, you know, this is going to sound morbid, but I'm actually glad that my husband is dead, because he would not have wanted to see this. Like, that would have killed him.
I remember saying that, and I remember a whole lot of people being really angry about that. I was like, terrible wording, but I understand.
Terrible wording, yeah, but like I understand.
But if anybody can say that it's kind of her right, yeah.
Well, I think that's why she did, because she was just like, dude, she was like, he loved this franchise so much that, like, I'm kind of glad that I didn't have to see his heartbreak on this. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. Like, yeah.
What would be the heartbreaker for you guys? For me, it'd be like if they made a new Fable and it came out and it was just bad. Well, Fable was already bad before, so maybe that's not.
It already happened to me. It's actually already happened to me. Fucking Konami did Metal Gear Survive. I actually got it.
I thought we were gonna pretend that never happened.
My heartbreak would be if they made a Shaq Fu 2. They just made one. That would be heartbreaking for me. I'm so glad that game doesn't exist anymore. If you don't know what it is, do not look it up.
No, please do. It's the great Shaq Fu.
Oh wait, is that the beat 'em up?
Is the greatest game to have ever happened.
It's exactly what you think it is, dude. It was like a PR stunt by Shaq at the time that even he hates.
Yeah. If I don't think this will happen, but if Psychonauts comes out and it's like bad, I'd be very sad. But I don't think it will be.
You know, I think well, this is the thing. Psychonauts has always, I mean, it was a passion project to begin with. The guy straight up quit his job to make his job at LucasArts to make Psychonauts. There is no way he is going to let something like that happen to Psychonauts.
Yeah.
Dude, honestly, my heartbreak was kind of like when I think when Microsoft bought the rights from Rare to like license Killer Instinct, and then they made the like Xbox One Killer Instinct the exclusive, because it was like, holy shit, like, what did you do to the original format of the game? You know what I mean? Like, we haven't seen a new iteration of that game in literally 20 years. The last one was Killer Instinct Gold on the Nintendo 64 back in like 96. I want to say like 96 or 97. But it was just like, then they came out with that one in like 2012 or 2013. It's just like, dude, come on.
Yeah, and I mean between that and Konami killing Silent Hill for me as well. I mean, this is the thing. I've known Silent Hill was dead for a long time. And then PT showed up around and got my hopes up. And that was a dumb thing for me to do. But I got my hopes up about PT, and exactly what you think would have happened to PT happened. Konami killed it. Both of my two biggest, most beloved franchises just dashed out the blink of an eye. It's just incredibly frustrating.
Absolutely.
All right. I think you can pretty much beaten all these horses dead, and then give them a couple extra cakes for good measure.
Find me another one.
I wish I had another one. I wish we had more we could talk about. But I think we're just about going to call it a night. So unless you guys have something else you want to say.
No, I think that pretty much covers things.
All right. Those horses look pretty dead to me. So.
All right, thank you guys so much for watching. This has been the Not Important Gaming Podcast with Jeremy, Reed, and Derek. You could find us out here at twitch.tv/Ubarlook. That's UBARALOOK. We're online at 11:30 Central Time every Sunday night. We also now have a YouTube channel. If you just look up the Not Important Gaming Podcast, we are the first thing that shows up. Unfortunately, we don't have an exclusive domain yet, and I don't want to read off a massive string of letters and numbers for you. Yeah. Other than that, thank you guys so much, and everybody have a wonderful night.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Have a good night. See ya.